Hi, everyone, and welcome to SMARTalks powered by Geniecast with support from the Nitrous Effect and the Emerson Leadership Institute in the Shape It School of Business at St. Louis University. My name is John Launius. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Geniecast, and it is a pleasure to have you with us today for Passionate Curiosity with Chic Thompson and Rob Frohwein. So for me, nothing in life ever gets done without a conversation, either with ourselves or with someone else. And for me, we're all listening to a radio station called WIIFM. What's in it for me? So consider over the next hour what you're listening for as we explore passionate curiosity. I have two great guests today, Chic Thompson and Rob Frohwein. I'm going to start with Chic Thompson. Chic has become such a great friend, and I hope that you have the sense today of the kind of relationship that we have. Rob, we've just met and we're already off and running, so excited about that. So Chic Thompson is a Batten Fellow of Entrepreneurship at the University of Virginia's Darden Business School and worked in new product development for W.L. Gore and Associates. You may have heard of Gore-Tex. He was behind that. Johnson & Johnson, and also Walt Disney. Great stories inside of all of those people or groups that he's worked for. His first book, What a Great Idea, has sold over 250,000 copies globally. And his second book, Yes, But, is a guide to overcoming language that stifles innovation. Chic has provided over 4,500 presentations, brainstorms, etc. And his latest creative adventure is founding Wagilabs, a global social innovation incubator for kids' ideas. He's also a genie here at Geniecast. Chic, welcome.
Hey, John, thank you so much, man.
So great to be here with you. All right, let's talk about Rob. So Rob Frohwein is the co-founder and former CEO of Kabbage, a global financial services technology and data platform, which has lent billions, with a B, to small businesses out of Atlanta, Georgia. In 2020, Rob sold Kabbage to American Express and remains a serial entrepreneur. Rob, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much, John, for having me on, and Chic as well. And that cereal is not with a C, it's with an S. A long time ago, Chic and I worked on a cereal company, but we've worked on just about everything together. So
I love it. All right, so I want to talk about my background because I see many people that I've been on video calls with before, and they're used to normally seeing me with, you know, that virtual background that can send you anywhere. This is my actual office. Like this is actually a real painting from Maxwell Dixon. And the reason why that I love this painting, and I didn't put it up for this talk, what I love about this is that for me, this is very much passionate curiosity. So, you know, Chic, kind of starting with you, where does the term passionate curiosity come from, and maybe how does this relate?
Well, I relate to that because my mentor growing up was the cartoonist Rube Goldberg. And when and I grew up 4 houses away from him on Long Island. And when he would go and draw a cartoon to go in of a person eating a bowl of soup, it wasn't just spoon to mouth to napkin. He used all the letters of the alphabet. So if you were going from A to B, you had to go to C, E, F, J, H, you know, and all of those. And Rube said to be successful in life, to go from A to B, you had to use all the letters of the alphabet. That's passionate curiosity, and that is also your painting. So where the term actually originates from is Albert Einstein. Einstein never ever said he was creative. He always just said he was passionately curious. And he said that if the average person is looking for a needle in a haystack, they would stop when they found the needle. He said he would look for everything in the haystack that would act like a needle. So one time going to visit Rob in Atlanta, I was in a hotel, putting on my shirt. And when I give talks, I was giving a talk for a lot of Rob's clients, and I like to wear shirts that have cufflinks. Well, I forgot my cufflinks. So I could roll up my sleeves, but that's not passionate curiosity. I said to myself, what are 10 things in this hotel room that could act like a cufflink? Okay, the shower curtain rings. Okay, the pen cap, twist ties, dental floss. About number 8 was unscrew the dresser drawer knobs with my credit card. That's what I put on. And people kept coming up to me at my talk. And so those are the largest cufflinks we've ever seen. The point is, I felt like I was 5. I had the energy of a 5-year-old for the rest of the day. And I had a conversation with a bunch of people because they said, those cufflinks. So passion and curiosity is also sparking it in other people. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wanted to bring Rob on. He is the most passionately curious person I have ever worked with and met. And so I just wanted to, let's have a conversation. So I passed the baton to you, Rob.
Oh, thank you, Chic. That's super kind and of you to say that. And coming from you, that means so much. It's funny, when I first met Chic, which was probably like 2002, 2003, it's sort of like, I heard a language that I had never heard before, but I knew I understood it. It was this really interesting thing when I saw Chic give a presentation, and it sort of gave life to pretty much everything I had been feeling and thinking up to that point, because I was always thinking of ideas, thinking about things. I didn't know what that spark was that was in me, but I really realized that this concept of passionate curiosity, which Chic brought that phrase to me, I had never heard it before, was really the beginning of my entrepreneurial career. And when I look at your art behind you, John, there, the way I think about it is I look at that and you can say, okay, well, I see it. It's a bunch of, looks like somebody had like a fat marquee, marker and just, scribbled on it. But, I think passionate curiosity is looking in there and seeing everything you can see in there, or maybe saying, where does the line start and where does it end? And what path does it take? Or how can I assemble the different shapes that are present in that picture into something else? And I think it's a lot of what I learned from Chic about thinking about ideas. In fact, the idea for Kabbage was thanks to Chic and one of the methods that he taught me many years ago. So I owe him a lot of my life because that became a big part of my life.
Chic, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've all used the word spark, and what's so cool, the way
That's Wordle. We're going to use it for Wordle.
Oh, sorry.
We can use it. We can use it for Wordle tomorrow.
Yes, we can. I love it. Yeah, we're both big Wordle fans. I think curiosity is the spark before the spark that everybody sees and thinks is creativity. Curiosity comes first, and it is a spark, but you don't see it. We feel it. Rob and I feel it. Yeah. And we can share it with others, but it's that hidden characteristic that I think great leaders have. It's not just great creatives. I think CEOs, nonprofit leaders, they all have this passion and curiosity because they can tie their curiosity into empathy and to design-centric thinking and to, so.
And I think anybody can learn how to be curious about things too. I'm a big believer that regardless of where you are in life, you can start approaching things that are presented to you with a curious mind, and it'll change your absolute perspective on your life, really, on what you want to do next.
Well, so what I love about today is that I assert that everybody who's joining us in many ways is engaging in passionate curiosity. There's a reason at 1:00 Central Time, people stop their life, they've jumped on here, for a conversation. And so you're going to have an opportunity for those of you who are joining us for Q&A a little bit later on. If you don't know the commitment of SMARTalks, it's smart people talking about smart things that make a difference for all communities. And I really do mean all. So as we step deeper into the conversation, about 30 to 40 minutes will be the three of us bouncing questions off, responses, etc. But I want you to continue to keep thinking about, okay, what do I want to ask? What would make a difference for me in what I'm dealing with, or what I'm thinking about? So we'll look forward to that a little bit later on. So we've been talking a lot about passionate curiosity, but I'm curious, and I'd like to start with Rob first this time. Rob, what's the difference between curiosity and creativity?
Well, first, it's interesting. You talked about smart people discussing, smart things, and I think the other part, I don't remember if you said this, Chick, that's the other part of the Einstein who brought this concept was, I believe he said something like, I'm not particularly smart, I'm just passionately curious.
Mm-hmm.
Because curiosity is also the spark for, kind of knowledge and information and, learning. And so, I think that is, and so getting back to your question, John, which is, what's the difference between curiosity and creativity? Curiosity is, I agree with Chick, it's that moment before creativity where you ask the question, like, so I'll give you an example. If you're facing a challenge in your life or you see a troubling situation, instead of, just absorbing that information and accepting it for what it is, curiosity might be to say, how can I look at this from a different perspective? Or what might, if I'm facing a challenge, like if I was going to solve this challenge, how might I solve it? Or how might somebody else solve it? One of the great things, like, and I told you Kabbage was really found, like the idea, and Kabbage is a company, as you said, John, that lent billions to hundreds of thousands of businesses over its life before we sold it to Amex. The question I asked myself that helped me come up: what if a company like eBay bought a credit company? Right? What if you combine two totally different concepts? What can you come up with? And I think that's curiosity, is asking that question. Now, creativity is sort of, coming up with some ideas and then taking them to the next step. Like, how might you actually make that happen? Chick, you might have a better answer or some other thoughts on that.
I think you're right on. I think curiosity helps you see the blind spots that are out there. Rob saw the blind spots, and then he started using creativity to go, well, what if I smash together, the eBays and the credit and all of that. I even sometimes think that creativity will always are, people talk about the what if questions. I love what if questions. However, the great thinkers, I think, ask why a lot. 5-year-olds ask why 65 times per day. Adults stop asking why, they just ask how much, when, where. They only ask why when they retire, and that why is, why did I walk into this room, which offers no value. Mm-hmm. So I think asking why, as Dr. Deming said, when you see a challenge, well, why is that occurring? And then, well, why is that occurring? And well, why is that occurring? You ask why 5 times to get to the root cause. And what we're learning now in design thinking, that you also ask the who questions so that you can be consumer centric. That ties into that pursuit of knowledge, which is what I think curiosity is. Creativity is transforming that knowledge into something like Kabbage and a portal that can lend so many billions of dollars.
So, Chick, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned blind spots. And this story may seem a little bit out of left field, but this is what popped into my head when you were sharing that. When I was first introduced to the concept of blind spots, it wasn't from a psychological standpoint. It was actually from the actual physical blind spots that we as humans have. When I was trained as a pilot, I'd never understood why pilots, when they're flying, they're always looking at 10 degrees. And what I learned about that was that, there are certain parts in our vision that our brain is just making up that particular reality. And so over the weekend, I was looking on Instagram and I saw there was a post that Ludacris had learned how to fly. And the comments were, why is he looking like he's driving? And because he was doing a lot of this. And I think it's interesting when you talk about curiosity and creativity, you've got to look around because you don't know where those blind spots are. Your comment?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I would say my dream as a cartoonist, that's what I wanted to do my whole life, is be a cartoonist,
Yeah.
and especially for Walt Disney. And when I finally realized the dream in 1976 and I got to be there in Burbank, and I threw out my first idea. I had this idea because I'm sort of a techie, and I had just gotten a Betamax. Betamax was before VHS. And I said, why can't we put Disney cartoons on Betamax so people can watch them at home? I got ripped. They said, wait a minute, that's illegal. Nobody would go to the movies if we allowed that, on and on. And so Disney sued Sony and blocked the Betamax from coming into, popularity. VHS came on in. Disney did not allow their films to go on videotape until 1984, 8 years later, which got me to see The Blind Spot. I stayed 6 more months. I left, started my own cartoon company, used videotape. And that's what got me started, seeing a blind spot by being curious.
Yeah. Well, so I think that begs really the next question that I have, and I'd like to start with Rob, is that, my question is, why do we need to be curious? And it may seem like a misnomer, like why would we need to even explore this question? But why do we need to be curious, Rob?
Well, I think, why we need to do it is because I think the advancement of society, demands curiosity. I think we're in the, so I think need can come from a couple of different perspectives. Individually, I think it's the thing that gets people talking. It's the thing that gets people excited and provides its own energy. Curiosity is is a source of energy from my perspective. And so that's really important from a personal perspective. And from, when you look at it from a societal perspective and an economic perspective, curiosity is sort of what drives people forward. Curiosity is what created the technology that enabled us to get vaccines, out to the public so quickly. Was things that had happened before then. So without curiosity, really, really nothing happens. The only other thing I'd love to add is, when you're looking at blind spots and you asked about that 10 degrees, on either side, I think that's an important concept, which is curiosity is not two-dimensional. It's not one step. It's not like, okay, I was curious. Now I'm done with that and we'll move on to the next thing I'm doing. Curiosity often breeds a concept, and then, and I'll try not to be too amorphous about that, but then if you're curious yet again, you can take it to the next level. Very, very quick example of that is I've started a new business called Keep, and we don't have to get into that, but I had started on one particular topic, thought of an idea that related to that topic, and then I thought about that idea and I got curious again, and it led to the idea that actually is the business of what Keep's going to be. So, it's multidimensional, I believe, and it's not one step, and so you're done with step one, you move to step two. It is, you should reintroduce curiosity at every step of the way, So sorry, I went a little off topic there.
I love it.
So Chic, I don't know what your thoughts might be.
No, I love that, Rob. I've always said that curiosity is what keeps me from getting bored. Just because, I will get bored really easy, but then my brain fires off. Or, I will go and see an idea and I go, oh, no, that's a pretty cool idea. I'll start going down a rabbit hole. And then I go, well, wait a minute, whoop. And then comes the second and the third right answer. Einstein said, when people brainstorm, most people stop too soon. They come up with one idea and they think, oh, that's great. Curiosity says, look for a second right answer, look for a third right answer. And then that's, to me, what a real brainstorm is.
Sorry, Chic, I keep getting excited because you're doing exactly what I want the audience to get a sense of, is how we, you and I, and then now earlier, as we were, getting ready to hop on, the three of us, how we're communicating, is that, language isn't necessarily, linear, even though, we read linearly, through lines that become books, things like that. But, it's cyclical in many ways. Like the path forward seems to go back in many ways. One definition of mastery is continually understanding the basics more and more deeply. To put a quick a button on the comment regarding Ludacris learning to fly, one of my favorite comments from the post was that there was an airline pilot who said, "Reading these comments deeply concerns me as a pilot." And so I think that's fun because, concern in many ways is something that we have to step over when we are engaging in curiosity, when we are engaging in creativity. If we're focused on concern, we can't, in many ways, knock it out of the park. Would you agree? Let's start with Rob.
Yeah, look, it's very, very easy, and hopefully I'm relating this back to your point, in the way you intended, but it's very easy to think about all the things that can go wrong, and to quickly, and that's something that Chic really taught me, which is the, but, yes, but, like, you have a great idea, but, we've tried this before and, it never worked. The importance of curiosity is, I believe, to stay, to stop all of that for a while and just focus on the positive energy, the opportunity you have, and you'll have time to worry about the challenges down the road. And I incorporated that into the way I never told you this, Chic, I incorporated that into the way I ran Kabbage, which was, I told people that design for the customer and solve for everything else was the line I used, which means that when you're trying to develop something, focus on the things that are most important to the customer first. Figure out what those most important things are and stay really principled on that. And then make sure, whether it's legal or marketing or, whatever else technological, limitations, whatever it may be, figure that stuff out, but stay pure on the front end. And to me, it's very much the yes, but concept that you introduced to me, Chic.
Yeah, it is amazing. Adults, when they hear an idea, usually will tell you what's wrong with it. And where kids will go and see what's right about it, what the possibilities are. So I think for us to become passionately curious, I always say, just be curious first. You can be critical second. So I teach a course at the Darden Business School. And when I told them 35 years ago, I wanted to teach a course on curiosity, they go, "We would never have a course on curiosity. That's a little bit too touchy-feely." So I rechanged the title. It's called Strategic Curiosity. So if you're ever trying to sell something, just put strategic in front of it. And I teach people how to imagine failure. Be curious about how you could fail, and that would be the yes buts. Also, my favorite question to teach, when you hear an idea, is to say, what would have to be true for this to be a good idea? And it's amazing how that just, whoa. It can change your whole perspective.
So, if I may add one thing to the end of that, which is be curious first. Don't be critical first. There's a lot of psychology and natural human behavior that comes into that. People being critical. And my co-founder at Kabbage, Catherine, said to me one time, and it just struck me. She said, people think they sound smarter when they're criticizing something rather than when they're saying, "Oh, that was a good idea," or not criticizing it, right? And I think it's important to, again, constrain yourself, right? You want to show why you're so smart, why this is, the challenges with this or the challenges with that. But it's really important that either people don't do that or those people are not in the room when you're brainstorming, because that's a criticism-free zone. I think it should be.
Yes. And for brainstorming, I love to teach the concept of yes and it's an improv concept from Second City. And we even created a yes and game where get someone this is a warm up for brainstorm. Someone just throws out any idea, but then the next 4 statements have to be yes, I like that idea, and build on it, build on it, build on it, build on it. Because that to me, what a brainstorm is. Then you can go and start saying the buts and go, but if I have a guideline that if anyone throws out a but, you then have to see if you can flip that but into an opportunity that we might have missed.
All right. Well, we are deeply now into the conversation. We're about 25 minutes in, and Chic, taking your cue, I'm going to give a little strategic housekeeping. So if you would like the opportunity to turn on your mic and camera and ask a question live, simply click the raise the hand button, which is in reactions, and my producer will assist you. Again, we don't necessarily, count on your participation, but and we would love it, because this is an opportunity for you to really ask a question directly to Chic or to Rob, two extremely accomplished gentlemen that I just enjoy being around and learning from. So that's a little strategic housekeeping. So Chic, kind of thinking about your work with Wagilabs, and it stands for what a good idea. And you work primarily with kids. I'm curious, what was your childhood curiosity like, and how does that play out today?
Yeah, I was a sick kid, so I didn't go to school until 2nd grade. I was the shortest kid, weighed I was the smallest kid, and I failed 2nd grade. Because they didn't even have the word dyslexia when I went to school. I couldn't read well. So my mother and I didn't even know I was brainstorming, but I said, Mom, rather than write a book report, I just want to draw pictures about what I think the book was about. And it was Moby Dick or something like that. I just wanted to draw, the ship and Captain Ahab and all that. And my mom said, well, why don't you just try writing the book report and then illustrate the book report? Voila. The D I normally got for every book report. Then I got an A for the illustrations, which gave me a C+, which got me all the way through high school. I illustrated everything. However, it didn't work in college. So that's why I only lasted 6 months. So I had a great mom. I didn't even know we were brainstorming together, but she was all behind me for that kind of thinking.
So I'm listening to this, and I mean, we pointed out at the beginning your work with Gore-Tex. I mean, when I look at your work at Walt Disney, I could literally spend the next 30 minutes listing off your accomplishments, and to hear that first part and not know the other part, it sounds a little, unbelievable.
Well, and what's so fascinating is that Rob and I have recently had a conversation. We didn't know that we were both baseball card collectors. We didn't know that we were and we did it for different reasons, but very similar reasons in certain ways. And I think a lot of those childhood activities, I have an autograph collection. I wrote letters to all the world leaders when I was 8, and I've got signatures from Chiang Kai-shek to Konrad Adenauer to Babe Ruth, on the walls of my home. But what an empowerment to be able to write a letter to a world leader, research it, write it myself, and actually get a letter back from them. That Rob and I talk about that those were inspirational times for us. And I want to create something like that for the kids today and with the Wagilabs.
I love that, and I would invite everyone to go look that up, because it's an incredible thing what you're doing there. Rob, shifting to you for a minute, since Chic was talking about your relationship, I'm curious, How did you both meet, and what kind of ideas have you created together?
So I think we met through through a mutual friend or a mutual contact many years ago, and so it was just kind of a random collision, I guess,
Yeah.
at that moment. But I think what we saw in one another was well, I don't know. I can tell you what I saw in Chick. I saw somebody who sort of spoke my language. I was fascinated by how he taught, and how he taught creativity, curiosity, really. How he engaged so many people, and I don't know. He was just this engaging, smart, informative person who I really related to a lot, and so I sort of just glommed myself onto Chick. At that time, and I was like, you got to teach me some of this stuff. I want to so I would go to some of his lectures. He sometimes let me say a couple of things here and there. I was god awful at it, but I learned so much. And I was probably, at that time I was like 35 years old, and that's also a really important message too, which was I didn't know how to speak in front of people. I didn't know how to, I didn't understand these skills, but you can really learn at every age. And what it requires is curiosity, and getting back to that. So that's how we first connected, and we've really stayed. We worked together in terms of ideas that we developed together. Chick, what are your thoughts there?
Well, one of Rob's first companies was called Lava Group, because Rob is actually an intellectual property attorney. And we started doing work on IP, because I'd always said the phrase, used in my talk, that ideas are the currency of the future. And so, I mean, that sort of intrigued us too. Yeah. But then now we could talk about that cereal company. I got approached and I immediately turned up. Rob and we got to talk to this. These two guys had this brilliant idea of, what if we create a restaurant that just serves cereal 24 hours a day, and let's put it by colleges. And it took off. It was called Cereality. However, they were on all the talk shows, Good Morning America, Donnie Deutsch Show, all these kinds of things. However, they didn't know how to take it to the next step. So we tried to help them with that. And that was a very interesting situation, because not every idea is scalable.
Yeah. So looking at that, we've got about 7 minutes before we open up for Q&A from the audience. What I'd love to do in those 7 minutes is I'd like to blend both the founding of Kabbage and also Chick, the brainstorms that you run that are incredible. I mean, you're known as the godfather of brainstorming. So, gentlemen, let's blend those two, Kabbage and brainstorms. Who wants to start?
Oh, Rob, you go for that, my man.
Yeah, no, well, look, Chick taught me all sorts of techniques to come up with ideas. And I'd say when I first heard them, I was like, maybe this is, maybe this kind of stuff works, maybe it doesn't. But then I actually put it to practice, and it really did work. And I was actually preparing for a brainstorm with a company. It's because I did some of this through Lava Group, which, by the way, that stood for LAVA, stood for latent value, unearthing latent value. So this idea that there's all this great genius inside of organizations, and you just have to figure out how to sort of pull it out. And so Chick can talk about a few of the other techniques, but this technique was, literally, what if one company, and I made sort of veiled reference to this earlier, one company acquired another company, what would they do with it? And the reason I even went through that exercise is we were going to go into the brainstorm the next day, and I figured, I better do this myself before going on, just to give them an example of how this works and whether it works. And in preparing for that brainstorm, I used that technique, and I came up with the idea for Kabbage. And I actually shared it with the team that I was brainstorming with the next day. And so I thought that was like this weird, so literally I came up with the idea for Kabbage and preparing for a brainstorm. So like that stuff can happen at any time. And, so that's my background story.
Yeah, that's great. And I think I would say, I'm not sure where we fit on, I'm sort of off the charts at times on the extrovert scale. I can be. And however, extroverts don't score very high on all creativity tests. Introverts score so much higher. And that's why in brainstorming, Rob just told you that everyone, the secret to brainstorming the night before with yourself, bring that stuff into the brainstorm because most ideas don't come from that in the room brainstorm. They come before, after, washing dishes, out for a walk. You have to value those. And that's what Rob and we have honored the fact that ideas have some currency, have some latent value. And that's where Rob, in my book, What a Great Idea, which I wrote, Rob wrote the whole chapter on, the value of ideas.
And, the other thing is what Chic said, just to, add on to that, is bringing these ideas to a room actually allows those ideas to collide with one another. And then all of a sudden new things to happen, right? Because it's just, you can take things, again, I think dimensionality is really, really, really important in brainstorming. It's really important in curiosity, and allowing more random things to sort of collide and to see the outcome of those is really hypercritical. And again, like it works like a charm. And there's so many, like I think about Chic, your ideas around, thinking about like, taking it from all to, the Pepsi example that always stuck with me, break things down into their core components. Maybe you can share that one.
Sure. 1994, Pepsi calls up and says, hey, we want to go and create a new drink. We've just had a bomb. And I said, what was your bomb? They said, all of our research said that the American consumer wants clear stuff to drink. And I said, yeah, it's like water. And they go, yeah, but we would never sell water. So I said, so what did you do? And they said, so we created a clear drink that tasted like Pepsi. They said it did really well in blind taste tests. People have a blindfold on. I'm going, it bombed. It lasted 3 months. John Stewart called it crystal meth Pepsi, and it came off the market. So they wanted a brainstorm, and I said, well, okay, let's go and look at the ingredients. As Rob was saying, you break something down. Wait a minute, and what's hot now? Because of the merging of things. I said, Starbucks is really hot right now. Starbucks in 1994 had just moved from Seattle. Perrier had the #1 selling water, 9.5 ounce bottle. So I said, what if we slam together a caffeinated drink with an Italian name, put it in a Perrier type of bottle, 9.5 ounce, and it's not going to be clear, it's going to be dark. And I'm playing with opposites and slamming. It's sort of, I call it a smash up. And I did this with Doug Hall in Cincinnati at Eureka Ranch. Within one morning, we created a drink for Pepsi, which the world had never seen. It's called Frappuccino. The world didn't know that Frappuccino was originally made by Pepsi. It was a joint venture of Pepsi and Starbucks, but it was 9.5 ounce, the whole thing. And that's, to me, smash up is what Rob does so well. And that's what the three of us in a conversation, we can be that perfect smash up. That's why I think virtual brainstorming is possible. The three of us could be doing this with no jet lag.
Yeah. Well, Chic, that's perfect that you say that, because I mean, what you're doing at Geniecast, or you're doing many things here at Geniecast, but Idea Storm is one of those things. When you're talking about brainstorming, you can now in an instant be with anyone around the world. Like when I think about the conversations I've been having with my producer, Chris, and some of the guests that are going to be coming up on this. I mean, we're talking to Japan, we're talking all over the planet with these incredible people. And you know, this is the upside of the pandemic in many ways. I may have never met Rob, but yet we're having a related conversation in real time, you know, really making a difference, not only for ourselves, but, you know, but also for others. And this is the possibility of this. But just to circle back for a moment, you were talking about failure, essentially, when you're talking about, you know, Crystal Pepsi failing, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking about is that when we look at curiosity, we look at passion, I'm curious, curious quite literally, you know, how does this help one overcome failure in the entrepreneurial process? Because you may not identify as an entrepreneur, but in many ways, much of what we do in the course of a day is entrepreneurial. Chic, your thoughts?
Someone came up to me after I started teaching my course on strategic curiosity, and they said, but you know, curiosity killed the cat. And I don't know how this came to my mind. I said, and the cat has 9 lives. What that made me realize, that's the entrepreneurial. To come up with an idea like Kabbage, I might need to have 3 or 4 lives to be able to, you know, to have failed or to, and I don't think Rob and I look at any of those as failures, but it's good to be able to sort of say that I just learn what doesn't work and then also fail forward.
Mm-hmm. Rob?
Yeah, so I look every, you know, and it's very sort of well-known ground that, you know, most entrepreneurial successes, you know, have failure associated with them at some point in the past, right? So I have started businesses that have had varying degrees of success in the past, but I look at it as a, you know, I look at it as a journey. Like even within Kabbage, we did certain things, like we launched a product that allowed banks to use our technology to offer small business loans in other geographies. And we worked with Santander, Scotiabank, ING, and Europe, in Canada, Mexico. And ultimately that did okay, but it wasn't the kind of success I was hoping to have. But what it did lead it to was it led to a relationship with Alibaba.com. And we entered into a relationship with them that allowed their small business people U.S. small businesses who bought products from Alibaba on or through Alibaba.com to leverage Kabbage technology to finance them at the point of sale. And they would not have worked with us, but for the fact that we had worked with large international banks, which was the prior effort. So, you know, to me, what's really important is to maintain that curiosity, not just through initiating an idea, but through even stages when things don't work out quite as you expected them to work out, right? And so if if I had never pursued those relationships with the bank, I would never have worked with Alibaba. I would never have built this new product concept, which was one of the big reasons why American Express was interested in the company, right? Not the Alibaba, but the technology we built. So like, you never know where your curiosity is going to ultimately go, but staying curious through that process is really important. And by the way, there were points in time at Kabbage where I started just focusing on volume, like grow. And there were aspects of that were important. But what I realized, I look back over time at Kabbage, and I realized that I had lost a little bit of that spark that we talked about at the beginning of this talk. And it was really important to kind of reinfuse curiosity into the company, which again led to a lot of this product development, right? So it's just making sure you maintain it, and you can lose your path sometimes, but you know, finding it again is really important.
Absolutely. I'm looking down at the chat right now, and first of all, Miranda, thank you. She loves the painting. Thank you, Miranda, for that. Again, I invite everyone, you know, to ask a question. Again, this is your opportunity. If you want to come on screen, you can do that. If you want to ask the question down in the chat, I will recreate that if you don't want to come on screen. But, we're going to be doing Smart Talks powered by Geniecast on an ongoing basis with just an incredible, group of people from around the world. Again, smart people talking about smart things that make that create a benefit for all communities. And this conversation today definitely can apply, I think, to all of us, however, we're looking at the world. And so I think that kind of leads to courage. When you talked to Rob, when you talked earlier about how you didn't know how to speak in front of people, and you've been doing a fantastic job today, and you think about how, regardless of how much your subject, there's always, like, fear is always present at some level. And then what we do with that is really what separates us in many ways from the amateur and the professional, I think. And so, kind of looking at the courage to live your curiosity, Rob, let's start with you. How do you have the courage to look at those things that you're creating?
Some might call it a illness. No. I believe, people, and they can switch, but people are fundamentally motivated by fear or desire, right? And I think it's important. Obviously, I'm going to say this, but I think it's important to live out of desire, right? Like and desire. It's all, that's just a word, right? But curiosity is a big part of it. Like, what do you want the next phase of your work or your life or whatever, or your hobbies, whatever it may be? What do you want them to be? And to go for it. I think for me, I train my brain, I feel like, from a very young age to look for the solution to a challenge whenever I was presented with a challenge. So if I saw something that looked like it wasn't right, or a problem, or whatever it may be, I immediately trained my brain to think of what might be a solution to that challenge. So I think that was really the spark at a young age to do that. And I was mesmerized by the concept of entrepreneurship, this ability to build something, to be able, I had this feeling, this romantic feeling of like building this thing and having employees work in this business and pursuing these ideas. I had to do it. And I was fortunate that my wife saw that in me, and didn't try to quell that spirit. And so I took a lot of personal risk over the years to go after my, those beliefs. And again, I think everybody's capable of it. And I think it starts with just, starting to think about that when you encounter challenges in your everyday life, just starting to, get on with trying to think through, like, okay, well, how would I fix that? What would I do? And then you'll be amazed. Like, you'll come up with an idea. One more thing, I'm sorry, I'm going on, but you'll come up with an idea and it'll excite you. You thought of this idea, that's great. And you'll think of a few more ideas. And Chic mentioned I was an intellectual property guy for a long time. And I would have people come in and they would like, I have this idea for this and this and this. And we just do like a little search. And oftentimes the idea would already be being executed by people out there. And people you'd see the shoulders slump and the whole body expression go down. And what I would remind them is, you should have the exact opposite reaction to what you just encountered, because your idea was great, because people are working on it. You might not have been aware of it, but that means you have the potential to come up with other ideas and to pursue things. And by the way, just because somebody else is working on your idea doesn't mean you can't work on it too and do it even better. So it's just, to me, it's very much mindset and perspective and point of view.
Love that. And then Chic, your courage to live the way that you do when you talk about curiosity, how do you respond?
Well, it's interesting. When I was 6, 7, and 8, as I said, I was sick and I wanted to draw cartoons for Disney. Well, that all fell apart because I only stayed at Disney 6 months when I actually got there, because they shot down all my ideas. And my best friend got fired because he was gay. I didn't know, I mean, that's 1977. Disney had that policy, and I said, I can't work here at a group like that. So how did I have the courage to leave Disney, leave my dream? One, they shot down some of my ideas. Two, they fired my best friend. That gave me the courage to say, Mickey became my dartboard then. And I needed that to go and then start my cartoon company. But so the reason why I mentioned in the beginning that I was sick as a kid, I then got into healthcare cartooning. So we did the first educational cartoons on genital herpes, on AIDS, on cocaine abuse. I did them all as cartoons for younger audience. Then I did the first movie on homosexuality, because again, I wanted to do it for my friend that got fired. And these were programs that would go into the high schools. But now let's go 35 years later. I took this gap and I taught at a business school for 35 years. Now what I'm doing is back drawing cartoons to teach kids around the world, especially kids. Like, we're just launched this week, today, we launch in Haiti. Okay. We launched we're in Nigeria, we're in Ghana. I can't wait to get to Ukraine. I mean, and it's only elementary school kids. So as Rob said, when I saw the whole Ukraine thing, I'm now pulling together my resources to say, how do we go in? Wagilabs is a free nonprofit. How do we go in? Because boy, those people have so much courage, and I think they're going to have to be entrepreneurial. They already are being entrepreneurial. So I want to go and do all I can. So for me, why I wake up in the morning now, it's to go and create programs and teach. Kids are naturally curious. I want to teach them now how to become kidpreneurs.
First of all, if you're not inspired by that, Chic, meeting you in 2021 was one of my highlights, and I'm just so happy that you're sharing authentically, which, I mean, you always will. That's who you are, and I just love, hearing where you're coming from and the positive difference that you make. So looking at that, we've got about 7 minutes remaining. We've got some questions in the chat, so we're going to do somewhat of rapid fire. So Julian asks, what's the biggest motivator within your career and your leadership? We'll start with Rob.
Biggest thing is seeing my ideas become reality. It really is the motivator. It's not, earning money, and it's not anything else. Just seeing your ideas turn to reality is a really just unbelievably exciting, motivating concept.
Love that. And then Chic, what's the biggest motivator within your career and your leadership?
I can tell you it happened last year. I was asked to run a brainstorm for 20 girls in 4th grade class in inner city Cleveland. And we're brainstorming, and this is part of our Wagilabs curriculum. And I didn't know that these kids could use the share screen and all that. I mean, they're only 9. And so we came up with a bunch of ideas for the home. They wanted to work on the homeless, and they wanted to give food to the homeless and this and this. And I said, okay, I want one more idea, because I always go for at least 3 or 4 ideas. And one little girl said, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Chic, she said, can I share my screen? And she had drawn a picture of a face mask that she wanted to create that glowed in the dark. And I'm going, what's that for? Tell me what. She said, well, it's for my mother. My mother, when she goes to work in the dark. When she comes home from work, it's in the dark. Nobody can see my mother. This face mask will glow in the dark, and it will keep people safe. So then I got to turn it into a STEM experiment and say, well, how can we do this? And another little girl said, we can get glow-in-the-dark fingernail polish. And then we turned it into a design experiment. So I sent them $250. We bought a bunch of supplies. They've created it. Now Cleveland is talking about, they're distributing the face masks. And that little girl was zooming in from a homeless shelter. How in the world did I get the opportunity to be one-on-one with a little girl in a homeless shelter. I call them creative collisions. I hope that's that little girl's creative collision, because the teacher told me that girl had never participated in class during the Zoom, first year of Zoom. Now she can't keep quiet. She just keeps talking about ideas and sharing. Bam. That's what motivates me. And sometimes it takes a couple of years to get remotivated, but that one, I think that's got me for the rest of my life.
So inspiring. When you talk about smart people talking about smart things that make a difference for all communities, you jumped from 2 different continents in under 3 minutes. That's no, I mean, that's what this is about. That's the reason why that we're doing this, because, you know, we want to give all people access to conversations that they may not have access to. And you may have all the money in the world, or you may have no money. But if you're able to engage in this conversation, you're going to see something for yourself that you didn't see before. And that's the excitement of this. So quickly, I'm going to go to Scylla. She says, Chic, you mentioned a couple of things. Not every idea is scalable. Then you said you've learned over the years what works and what doesn't. Can you share a theme or two for ideas that you've seen turn into successes, and what do they have in common?
Okay, the big theme is the person actually uses that idea or product, and is like, when I came up with one of my first products at Gore-Tex, you know, this was 1976, and we had this material that was Teflon, that was breathable, and we were going to create athletic clothing. I was in the hospital for an operation. I'm lying on a hospital bed for 3 days because my stomach had been operated on, and the mattress was hot. So in my curious self, I said to the nurse, "Why is the mattress so hot?" She said, "All hospital mattresses are hot." I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because they have plastic on top of them." "Why?" "Because we don't want bodily fluid to go into the mattress." "Why?" "Because we can't clean the mattress." Oh, that's how I came up with my first product out of Gore-Tex, a Gore-Tex hospital bed sheet for the hospital. And you know, if you look in a burn unit around the world today, those patients are going to be lying on that Gore-Tex bed sheet. I knew that idea would work because I was feeling it, I was living it. That's when I know something. That's the aha. And just like with Rob, I mean, that's why I love about his ideas, because I know where they come from. They come from inside of him and his experiences.
Yeah. So great question. So looking at about the minute and a half we have remaining, Rob, search deep for a minute. What would you like to leave us with today?
Well, I think for me, yeah, I think the things that I was searching for, I had this unbelievable desire to be an entrepreneur. I don't know that I would have ever been successful had Chic not entered my life at the time it did. I really believe that. I had businesses that were doing, middling kind of things, and sometimes worse than that. But it was the structure that Chic provided me with, how to think about and really get energized through curiosity, and ask those questions and combine those concepts, that allowed me at the age of 40 to, found, probably the defining part of my career. And so I think the thing that I would like to, leave folks with is, I think it's, 1, hypercritical. 2, you can do it at any phase in your life and your career. And 3, you should listen to one of Chic's talks. That's one of my, those would be the 3 things, that I think create magic here. So at least did for me.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you, Rob. And then Chic, what would you like to leave us with?
Homework. Break a pattern. Next time you go shopping, start in a different aisle. You never know who you're going to meet or what you're going to see on the aisle. I have a golden rule of being curious. Arrive 5 minutes early for every meeting. You never know what conversation that extra 5 minutes is going to spark.
Absolutely. And I think your share, Chick, was perfect because Miranda, who loved the painting, we actually met at a coffee shop on Friday because I'd been iced in where I live. I live deep in the woods here in Missouri. And I could only get out just to my downtown. And she sat close to me. And over the course of the day, I got to learn about her graphic design. I got to learn about, all these different things. And we have become fast friends. And I'm super excited that she was here today with us. So I'd like to thank all of you for being a part of Smart Talks powered by Geniecast, with support from the Nitrous Effect and the Emerson Leadership Institute and the Chaffetz School of Business at St. Louis University. I'd like to thank Chic Thompson and Rob Frohwein for being a part of the conversation, passionate curiosity. And I think it's perfect that SLU's slogan is higher purpose, greater good. And the Chaffetz School of Business slogan is where mission meets the market. And so I'll leave everybody with a quote from Elizabeth Gilbert, where she says, if you can let go of passion and follow your curiosity just might lead you to your passion. My name is John Launius. I appreciate so much Rob and Chic for today, and we'll see you next time on another Smart Talks powered by Geniecast. Bye-bye.
Great. Thank you all.